Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the May 28th, 2020 Marlborough Central School District Board Meeting. If we could all please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We're going to start with the Board of Trustee candidates, giving a 2 or 3 minute overview of their platform. John Cantone will go in alphabetical order.
Did you say 2 or 3 minutes? That's how long it takes me to say
I
hello.
could also just remind everybody to mute your microphone if you're not speaking, please. Thanks.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to the community. We haven't been able to get out much at all, obviously. So I'll be quick. My name is John Cantone. I live in Marlborough since 2003. Grew up in town of Newburgh pretty much since I was 7 years old. Prior to that, I have 2 children in the district, 7th grade and 9th grade. I'm married. My wife Karen actually works in the district as well in the last few years. I actually have spent the last 3 years on the board. This is my end of my first term, and I'm running for a second term. I have many years at IBM, and business experience includes managerial, technical, financial analysis, many budgeting jobs, various experiences that I believe apply to the Board of Education, and it has actually come in handy in the last 3 years when I've actually had to deal with any kind of budget issues, financial discussions, and personnel issues as well, because managerial positions clearly are similar no matter what your experiences are or your industry. Prior to being on the board, going back as far as 2012, 2013, I was also part of a couple of Board of Education subcommittees. During that time, if you recall, that was the year the power plants claimed bankruptcy and the community was getting involved by way of requests of the administration and the Board of Education members at the time. So I've really been following the board for quite a long time, and 3 years ago I was in a position where I could actually spend the time and be a board member, and I actually wound up doing that. I've also had numerous volunteer experiences besides youth sports and various things. When it comes to education, I'm the Discover Engineering Coordinator for IBM, and I spent last 6 or 7, maybe even more, bringing IBM engineers into the classrooms at all different schools to talk about STEM careers and perform STEM activities, which has blended nicely into our STEM progress that we've made as a district. I've also, if you've heard of the P-TECH program, which is a 6-year program that combines high school and college, I'm a mentor. IBM's a sponsor down in Newburgh Free Academy, and I've also been a mentor there. So I've had many years of BOE experience in the classroom. I've gotten to know the district quite well. I guess the question that I'll answer, assuming people have it on their mind, is why do you want to be a school board member? And especially, why do you want to do it again? And I guess my simple answer is I enjoy being able to be in a position where I can make a difference in the community. It's a pretty hard job to learn. It's a steep learning curve. Even though I was involved for many years prior, I think the 3 years I've learned a whole lot more than I thought I would ever learn. And there's still more to learn. And I think it's important when someone has the ability to leverage their work experience, their personal experiences, as well as experience on the board to deal with the issues that we deal with on a regular basis. And looking forward, clearly next year is going to be a challenging one. We don't know what's going to happen in terms of what the school is going to look like. We don't know how remote learning is going to fit into the whole environment, even if it's just partially. There's clearly going to be some changes next year. And of course, the one that we're all afraid of is what's going to happen financially with the state and their aid, what kind of aid is going to be available, and what kind of last minute decisions are we going to have to make. So with all that, I thought this would be a good time for me to leverage that experience that I just referred to and join again for 3 years, and hopefully be able to be part of any kind of hard decisions we have to make, or to make sure we do everything we can to keep everything going as well as it has been in terms of, student involvement, activities, curriculum changes, and everything we've done to keep the programs going. So probably already used up 3 minutes, so
You get 2 seconds left, John.
hopefully I have your support, and I look forward to serving you for another 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Mike Connors? You're muted, Mike.
How's that? That's better. Okay. And thank you, President Lazar, trustees, and community members who are on the call. And I see Mr. Hacker's there as well. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. This is my second time running for the board. I recall the last time I ran, or maybe you don't recall, was when we had our first budget crisis, financial crisis, when the plans closed down. I've lived in the town of Newburgh since 1998, so I've been here 22 years. I have 2 of my children are graduates of Marlboro. The most recent one, Andrew, was part of your 2016 state championship baseball team. I'd just like to say about that, I don't know how many of you remember, but back in I think it was 2009, we had more than 200 homes in foreclosure. And when the boys and girls took the state titles that year, what a lift it was to community. And within 2 years after that, there were less than 9 in the community. All right, Marlboro became a place where you want to be. And I've always enjoyed being here. The Hudson Valley is a beautiful place to live. It's a shame that what's happened around us, especially lately with the virus, and it creates challenges both for our teachers and for us all as administrators and potential administrators to administer a quality education program. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, Marlboro is a small community, and with that goes a lot of chatter. And I'd kind of like to set the record straight on a number of things. The first of which is we're here to produce a quality education product. We're here to compete with the best schools in the state and in the country. And I believe that our administrators, teachers, and staff are perfectly poised for that challenge. I do believe that there is an issue where resources are concerned. And my 35 years as an accountant in private practice lends itself perfectly to the formulation, the production, and the execution of effective budgets that provide the best value for our education dollar, not only to give our children and their children, the community's children, a great education, but to provide value to the taxpayers. I also wanted to add that I think our facilities present us with some challenges. And I know it's a difficult thing because we are working with limited money, and we do want to make sure we can provide safe and good places in which to learn. Our athletic programs are, of course, have been our calling card in recent years, and wouldn't it be nice to have our education to be right up there as well? I can't tell you how many in the community or that come to my tax practice when they see my son's Marlboro pictures on the wall say, oh, you're in Marlboro. Boy, they have some whatever team, boys, girls, you name it, they have it. And then lastly, I want to speak to value. You hear from time to time how people are looking to make cuts, to trim this, to trim that. Look, let's face it, costs are going up. Salaries go up, benefits go up. We need to find the money to continue to deliver high levels of education and provide the resources that our teachers and staff need to keep Marlboro moving up the chain of command where education is concerned. Many of you shop and utilize some of the more than 200 companies that we consult with. My 14 tax offices prepare returns for more than 18,000 Hudson Valley residents. I hope they come out and vote for me. I'm firmly planted in this community and vested in its success. I believe that where our school district goes is where our economy is going to go. And if we deliver a top-level product you're going to have people flocking to Marlboro, and everything will take care of itself from there. It's a sad thing to see when tax time comes around and people can't, they can't make their tax payments and what have you. And let's face it, as the highest tax district in Marlboro, we have some questions to answer. But I believe firmly that working with our community, working with our towns, working with our businesses, that we can produce the revenue without taxing everybody to death and build a high-level product. And thank you all for listening today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Jeff Hacker?
Oh, hello. My name's Jeff Hacker. I grew up in the area. I live on Tucker's Corners Road. I work for a school district across the river. August starts my 18th year as the computer tech network specialist. I'm very, we take care of all the end user support, and especially now handing out Chromebooks to a lot of the students that don't have resources in our district. My daughter goes to the middle school. She loves it. She loves Marlboro, and I just want to be a positive influence in her life and help others. And it's my turn to give back to the community that has done so much for my daughter. And I want to wish everyone that's running good luck. And I'm always willing to learn. I've been on the other side, from the board in my district, and I support teachers, office staff, students, and technical expertise in that. And like I said, August starts my 18th year, and like I said, I just want to give back to the community, and I'm always willing to learn. And that's about it in a nutshell. I just love Marlboro. Like I said, I've lived here all my life, and I don't plan on moving. And I'm going to support everyone that I can for what I could do. That's about
Thank you,
it.
Jeff.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. I'm going to mute now.
Okay. James Kuha.
Okay, can everybody hear me? We're good? Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is James Kuha. I am a current Board of Ed trustee. I'm actually running for my third term, so I've completed 6 years. I'm hoping for another 3. I'm a married father, one daughter who currently attends our middle school. And of course, much like everybody, I care deeply about Marlboro and the school district. I think we're all here for the same reason, so like Jeff said, good luck to everybody. 3 years ago, I ran on a platform of accountability and fiscal responsibility to our residents. Sometimes this required decisions to be made, and they were tough decisions. But I speak to you all today affirming that that platform hasn't changed. I'm willing to make those tough decisions, and I stand by the decisions we've made to push this district forward to where we currently stand. The Vision 2020 project, which is repairing and remodeling our schools to make them not only a little more user-friendly, but safer for our students, was accomplished without raising taxes. And truly it was an effort by administration, the board, the staff in all the schools, and certainly the community. But I voted yes for the project simply because it made sense. Currently, I'm seated on the facilities committee, which is helping guide the construction project. And to be honest, to be perfectly honest, I would like to see that project through until its completion. However, currently there are more important things surrounding our district. As we all know, COVID-19 has literally changed the way we educate our children. When the governor closed schools, we moved to an online platform to educate our kids. And I'm kind of at the position where I ask the community, who's better to understand the needs of the students than the student himself? So most people don't know, for the past year, I've been enrolled in a local college, taking classes to obtain my business degree. The program is entirely online based and at times extremely difficult. I not only sympathize with our students, but I think I can offer a student perspective on how difficult it truly is to take these classes. Right now our schools are in crisis and our future is relatively unknown. Will we be online based next year? I hope not, but what if we are? I feel I'm fully prepared for the challenge and ready to accept it should I have your vote. I ask that you mail in your ballots and choose me to represent you, the community, once again. However, to sum it all up, It's truly been an honor to serve this board and its community, and I remain committed to serving you, hopefully once again. Thank you, and good luck, everybody.
Thank you, James. And last but not least, James Mullen.
Thank you, Frank. Good evening, Marlborough Central School District community. My name is James Mullen, and I'm running for the Marlborough Central School District Board of Education. First, I'd like to extend my thanks to Superintendent Brooks and the current school board for giving me this opportunity to speak to all of you. This year has been one of the most challenging in recent history, and in true Marlborough fashion, our community, teachers, and administrators have worked tirelessly to provide our children a chance to grow and flourish through these tumultuous times. My family moved to the Marlborough Central School District in 2015, and we're preparing to send our oldest son to kindergarten during the 2020-2021 school year. My wife, Devin, and I currently have 3 children, with our 4th due in August, so our commitment to the Marlborough Central School District is for the long haul. Though we may not be lifelong Marlborough residents, we chose Marlborough as the town we would raise our family in for so many reasons. The strong sense of community, the diversity which the community holds, and the pride in residency all come to mind. Though these are all important, as a family with young children, most of you can understand the number one thing we look for was a great school district. I'm first going to address the elephant in the room. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown our entire country into a state of flux and uncertainty. We are about to embark on a school year where we don't know if the children are going to be starting in September as scheduled, will be continuing distance learning, or some other version of schooling yet to be determined. As a parent, this is a very scary time, and we need a school board who is available to hear the concerns of parents, develop and implement a plan with the help of teachers and administrators, and be able to adjust that plan based on the policies placed on us by the government. If I get elected your trustee, I promise to work with all of the parties involved to help create the best plan for our children. My belief is it is the job of the school board to solicit feedback on all of the different aspects which affect our schools. From the budget to curriculum to bullying to extracurricular programming, it's important for us to find what is working in our schools and enhance and celebrate those programs, as well as finding what areas our schools are not meeting and work with the parties involved to find solutions to make it better. The first of the parties involved are the families who make up our community. Each family in our district is faced with a different challenge, and their voices need to be represented within our board. I promise that if I'm elected, to be the voice for the families who have concerns in our district, bringing these concerns to the board and making sure each family feels their voice matters. To fulfill this promise, I will make myself both approachable as well as available to the families within our community. When it comes to our children, there's no problem that is too small to be addressed by our school board. Though I cannot promise that all problems will have the desired solution, I promise that I will fight for all problems to be heard and addressed equally. The second of these parties are the teachers who guide our children. Teachers know our children in many cases, as well as we do as parents. And it's my opinion that a school board must foster a partnership with the teachers in order to get what is best for our children. As we've seen this year, teachers will go above and beyond with limited direction to provide what they feel is best for our children. We know the COVID-19 pandemic has put the future of what our schooling looks like in jeopardy, and the governor has already let it be known that schools will not be returning to the pre-pandemic model. So I feel we as a district must get our teachers involved in implementing the new guidelines placed on us by the state in a way that works best for our children, families, and teachers. These 3 school board trustees that are getting elected will oversee the implementation of what our new school system is. And if elected, I will make sure the teachers will be partners in what the new Marlborough School District looks like. The third of these parties are the administrators who help put it all together. As much as the public education system is about providing what's best for our children, there are strict parameters around what our system must look like. This is overseen by the typically thankless administrators. I feel it is the job of the school board to support our administrators as best we can. They see day in and day out the needs of our students and teachers and have to figure out a way to stretch the limited resources while still providing an outstanding district. The school board must be partners with our administrators, who are often the sounding boards for the teachers and community members. They are told what is working and more often what is not working for the different groups in our district, and the school board must be there to work with them on creating a solution to enhance our district. My goal, if elected, would be to make sure our administrators feel that decisions made are collaborative and they have the resources they need to implement these decisions. Being elected to the Marlborough School Board would be both a great honor and privilege, and I hope that after hearing me speak today, you feel I would be a strong candidate to bring our district into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, James. So I want to thank all 5 of the candidates for participating tonight. Now, if Jeff, James, and Mike could disconnect, we'll move on to the regular part of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Brooks.
Good evening, everyone. Certainly, I wish the best of luck to all 5 candidates for the 3 seats that are open. If you haven't received it already, you should be receiving very soon the written mail-in ballot. So that should be coming to your mailbox very soon if it's not there already. And also after tonight's meeting, which is our budget hearing, which will be starting in just a few minutes, we'll be mailing out the budget newsletter, which details important information about the 2020 budget proposal, as well as a number of other interesting articles about our school district. Yes, this is a new process for us, and we are certainly challenged by the governor to live to a high standard in that new process. This mail-in ballot process has been overseen by our district clerk as required by the governor's executive order, and we have a process in place to clearly receive and vet and count all the ballots for the election of the trustees and also for the tallying of the votes for the 2020-21 budget and spending plan. So please participate, get your ballots in your mailbox, decide on your tallies, and send those back into us via mail. All ballots must be received through the post office, through a postal system, by the school district, no later than 5 p.m. on Tuesday, June 9th. A couple of other quick little updates for the board and the public. We have 2 donations that came in recently. One the board is acting on for my recommendation to receive tonight is a $500 donation from CS Arch, the architectural firm that's working on our Vision 2020 project. Our intention is to put that money towards defraying some of the costs towards graduation. It was a very nice gesture of CS Arch. They didn't put any strings on the donation. They just said, here's $500. We know that these are tough times, and we committed to using it towards the student matter. And we figured at this point, graduation is an important paramount experience for our upcoming few weeks. So $500 will be going towards that effort, and we thank CS Arch. We're also in possession, and it has not made it to the agenda yet, but it'll be coming up on the next agenda. We received a donation of $5,000 from Dance Camera Energy Corporation, specifically for the purchase of Chromebooks. So we'll put that on the agenda for next week's meeting to accept, and that will get us somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 to 15 Chromebooks, and we truly appreciate Dance Camera's support of our program and the purchase of those Chromebooks that will be directly used by our children. So thank you very much. Also, just listening to some of the folks speaking, certainly we have been challenged in this online learning environment, and it's been a learning experience on all sides of coins here. Children and families and staff members and board members, and even looking at what we're doing right now for this meeting, it's all been quite a learning experience, and it's quite impressive how our system has been able to turn pretty quickly. But we're quickly going to be turning again, and anxiously awaiting some guidance and direction from the governor's office and also the New York State Education Department for what our fall is going to look like. To get ahead of the curve, Robin Hecht, our Director of Curriculum Instruction, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, has already begun working with staff members at all levels, and will be continuing to seek input, actually is starting to fashion another set of surveys to go out to just gain some insight into people's perspectives about what the fall should look like. We're expecting to get a relatively prescriptive look at what state education department is expecting our fall to look like, and we'll have to submit a plan to comply with whatever that direction is. But we felt it's important for us to gain some insight from our constituents, from our students, from our families, from our staff members on what that looks like, just so we can put some data behind some thoughts and opinions that we may have. Also want to throw it out to the Board of Education. Over the next few meetings, let's hash around some ideas that you folks have as representatives of the community. I'm sure you have some perspectives. One of the board candidates had mentioned his own experiences with online learning. And I know that some of you have also are doing it right now and have some past experiences. So those experiences are valuable as we discuss this and really work on fine tuning what the fall is going to look like. Is the fall going to be return to regular school? Is it going to be an online environment? Is it going to be a blended environment? I don't know yet. That's something that we're waiting for some direction from the state, and certainly health concerns and the health departments will be a big driver in what that's going to be. So I'd say, as I typically do, stay tuned. Tonight we also have with us Ryan Lawler, high school principal. He's going to be speaking with us about his thoughts and perspectives in the journey towards graduation. So I will actually pass it over to Ryan for just a few moments as he gives a quick little update and perspective to the board for where we are with graduation planning. So Ryan, it's all yours.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. I hope everybody is well. So obviously a lot of concern that, all around us and certainly in our district with how we're going to honor our class of 2020. And the first perspective, from looking at it from a high school perspective, there's a lot that our seniors have lost in the traditional milestones and experiences. And so our goal with anything that we're doing is to try to honor them the best that we can. They're an incredible class. And it just, things ended a little too soon for them. There was a lot, more we were going to do with them, a lot more they were going to get to experience. And so graduation and our honoring of them as they leave us is, the last thing that we need to make sure we do the absolute best we can. So just to kind of go through things, we're going to do the best we can to have as normal as possible a graduation ceremony. That being said, we have to balance that with the current executive order does not allow more than 10 people to gather. So over time, we're going to see what happens, and we'll make adjustments. What I can tell you now is we do have a number of ideas that we're playing through. Mr. Brooks had sent out a letter to families. I had actually sent out surveys to both the class of 2020 and their parents to get some feedback. We had thrown some ideas out there, all of which would require some changes in the executive orders and what we get from health regulations and government officials at this point. But it was actually great to get feedback, not only answers to the questions, but also some write-in comments, many write-in comments that students and families gave us, which at this moment we're planning through a variety of scenarios. We are already, we're going to be producing a virtual graduation backup, and that's because this is the time for us to be putting that together. But it's our sincerest hope that that's something we produce, but we're able to do much more for our students over the course of time. Basically at this point, we're looking for some feedback from you guys as well. You're a group that certainly has the hearts and minds of our students and families in mind, and would like some feedback, and we'll answer any questions that you have or anything additional that you'd like me to talk about, Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, so the options that were out there, that we're floating right now, certainly would be ideally a full graduation, all students on campus on June 26th. Obviously, a lot of things have to fall in the right way in order for something like that to happen. So we've got a couple of other scenarios that we are planning for, depending upon what direction and guidance we get out of the governor's office. A secondary or another option would be maybe splitting the graduating class into smaller groups, maybe have a Friday night ceremony, a Saturday morning, and a Saturday afternoon with speeches and the conferral of diplomas live, all right on our campus. Certainly there's been a lot of headlines regarding drive-in experiences where we could gather at a drive-in. There are some regulations under tow regarding that right now, that at a drive-in experience, the health department in its current regulations from Governor Cuomo limits again gatherings of 10. So he has actually somewhat endorsed the idea of using a drive-in, but his endorsement of it really is families and their graduates staying in their cars watching a virtual graduation and not exiting their cars. So there could be some level of interaction, but it would really be isolating everybody to their cars, but still another viable option. And that, as Mr. Lawler had mentioned, the virtual video that we are putting together, there will be a memento no matter what. So that's actually occurring right now. Students are scheduled and coming into the high school and taking pictures on a dais and stage in their caps and gowns, and we'll have that memorialized forever. It's actually, I love listening to Ryan talk about it because he gets so excited to seeing the kids and getting their pictures taken. So it's really great stuff to see. Get to see some life back. That's what's really a good thing about it. And there are some other options too that have been thrown out there regarding some kind of a parading of cars or drive-up ceremony where you drive up to the school, step out of the car, receive your diploma, and drive away. Again, we're looking for some concrete direction from the Departments of Health. We're in constant contact with the county executives in Ulster and Orange County, and also the Department of Health, Dr. Smith in Ulster County and Dr. Gellum in Orange County, and listening very closely to what Governor Cuomo is pushing out. So our goal is to have the regular ceremony, and we're prepared to do anything that we have to based upon what the governor says. So as Ryan had asked, board, do you have any thoughts or perspective on that? I think we'd like to hear from you as far as some of your thoughts. So now might be, if we could take a few minutes, President Milazzo, we'd love to hear from that before we move on.
I have a question. It's kind of going back. This is Karen to with Robin and the survey that's going to go out for how school might look in the fall. I was wondering if there's any way that we might want to consider putting some, like a parental committee together and asking in that survey if there's any parents that have like some expertise with online learning that want to take part in a committee like that as well.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think the more input that we can get towards formulating this, that's a good thing. So not a bad idea at all, Karen.
That site that we were talking about earlier today, Thoughtfulness, or the site that they put up for website to put up, I can't think of the name of it.
It just went out of my head too.
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing because it's a think tank from the 36 BOCES, how many districts we have in the state, and I think if the parents take part in that too, that it just gives what I call a collective intelligence and gives us more ideas of how we can make it more meaningful and more understanding to the kids. So I'd really like to see some parent involvement out there. I think there's a lot of good ideas and a lot of parents that would jump on this opportunity to help. And I think there's a lot of expertise, just like John Cantone has a lot, and I have a lot with the online learning. I think there's others out there that have the same or even more.
Thank you.
I would just ask so we can, as we move through this, if you want to talk, just signal something and I'll acknowledge it. This way we don't talk over each other. Joanne?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Joanne?
Okay. As far as graduation goes, I like some of the ideas, but is there a way that maybe we can postpone it until July or maybe August? I mean, some of the other schools.
Yep, those are some ideas too. Yep, those are some ideas also. So we're kind of waiting on where the governor is. So.
Well, if we do the drive up, I would still like to be involved. I think that's very important for the kids to also see the Board of Education. We were elected and we've been part of this from the very beginning. Unfortunately, it's just a hard situation that we're all in right now. And my heart breaks for all our students and our staff. You know?
I think on that line, Joanne, I think we all got the dates for the middle school and the elementary school drive-through celebrations for their moving up. And there's no reason that all of us that are available shouldn't be there to wave along with the administrators and the teachers as those kids come through those days. I know that's those are always special days when you've got that going on.
Yeah.
John Cantone.
Yeah, question to you, Mike, in the same spirit of what Karen was talking about. So as you and Ryan and others in the administrative team have been trying to put together ideas, How did you work out the parental involvement, and how much insight and input have they provided to get to the options that you just described?
You talk about the options for graduation?
Yes.
Ryan, do you know offhand how many return surveys you got for students and for parents? It was a pretty good number.
Yeah, there were a few more today. Let me pull up the exact numbers we have.
My question
we
more
have-
was how you did it, not as much the numbers, but.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, just to answer the whole thing, we had sent a letter actually weeks ago that asked for ideas, and we had gotten a lot of ideas initially from people. So that goes back to, that was in early April that we sent that out. And then we also sent out the survey via Google Forms, and that was sent to the class of 2020. So we have 81 parent responses, and so we could have had up to potentially unlimited parent responses because that was actually a link. But in terms of student responses, they had to be students in our class, and we did get 60 students who responded directly out of 145.
That's good. That's good broad input. I like that.
Okay. John Marrow?
Yeah, thanks, Frank. All the ideas that I've heard so far are, ideas that have been bounced around in our schools as well. One thing that I've seen that I like the idea of is if it does become a virtual graduation, like when the kids' pictures are posted up on the screen, parents can put a comment there, or they can put like what they did in school, so they can get like a caption of what they did in the 4 years in the high school in one shot. Because when we're at an actual graduation, you're basically just seeing kids, the name, and they hand and they go. And it would be a nice way to, kind of capture everything that they did in 4 years when you put their face up on the screen. That's if it's virtual. I'm hoping it's not virtual. But all the other ideas that I've heard are things that we're also bouncing around with our schools as well.
Thanks, John. James?
So I do kind of like the idea of prolonging a little bit, pushing till July to see if we can have a real graduation. My concern, though, is given what the governor's doing. Remember in the beginning, we were going 2 weeks, the interval part of that. I get a little nervous that we'll prolong it too long and we'll miss the opportunity to do anything. So I think if we're going to go into July or August, we need to set a firm date that says, hey, if we can't get together, we have to go to a plan B. We have to have some sort of backup just in case that doesn't pan out for us. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, these kids deserve something. I just want to make sure we don't lose our opportunity and they get something.
Thanks, James. Susan, I know I can't see you, so do you have anything you wanted to add? Susan?
Can you hear me?
Yep, there
I'm
you
here.
go.
I actually feel like from a student perspective, the one thing that they absolutely love is being with their class for that one last time and wearing that cap and gown. And I really feel that, along with what Joanne and James has said, that if there's something that we can do, that can get the class in their cap and gowns, together in some way, shape, or form, I think that really is what makes graduation special.
Thank you, Susan. I'll have to add to that we see what's going on, and it's very difficult because the governor's information is sporadic at best as to where we're at. And I understand we just started phase 1 on Tuesday, so really phase 2 would be 2 weeks. Phase 3 would be another 2 weeks, depending on the numbers. But if things go in a positive direction, I think looking further out would be realistic to do, because it is. There's nothing more important than that day and having everybody together. But at some point, you've got to make a call, because you've got people that aren't going to be here, people that are going to be doing something, whether it's in the jobs or colleges or whatever, as we get to the fall. So we got to really monitor what happens over the next 4 weeks. And I think as it increments, we'll all be able to make better choices and talk about it. And there's nothing more important, and it can be done. It's just we have the space to do the whole group virtually distance on our property, limit the number of guests, live stream it. We have the ability to do it. We just need the legal ability to do it, so that the governor doesn't remove the superintendent's certificate and remove all of us from office. So. John Merrill?
Yeah, and Frank, with saying that, I mean, the football field is perfectly lined. You can fit 150 kids across. They stand on every other stripe, and it's going to work. So we can definitely do it, guys. If we can do it, we'll do it.
Joanne?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, one is, even if we had to do something now and then bring the kids back to do a regular graduation, just in case we can't do it in July or August, maybe do the two, but I definitely agree, rather the football or the track, I think would be a great place to do graduation and line them up and maybe put their parents on the other side of that fence where the kids are. That might be an idea too. But I think at the end of June, we should at least do something to recognize the kids just in case, which I'm hoping we don't ever, we can do June or July, a July or August graduation for them, but we should do something also at the end of June.
I think the big thing to remember, everybody, is Mike's watching. We're all seeing this day to day as it unfolds. We have a meeting next Thursday, and then 2 weeks after that. So this isn't a done issue, and the community should know we are all 100% behind doing something. Mike, you had a question or a comment?
Thank you.
I'm
looking out for my.
Yes. Okay. With that, anything else in the superintendent's report?
Yes.
I have a quick question.
Can you hear me?
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Susan's got a question.
Okay.
Sorry, there's so many mutes. As for that donation from CS Arch, I wasn't sure if I heard, did you say that you would be looking towards putting it towards the hotspots that they recommended?
No, the intention is that we would use that.
Distance learning?
The intention was to use the $500 from CS Arch. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the intention for the CS Arch $500 donation was to help defray some of the costs towards graduation. The $5,000 from Dance Camera was to purchase Chromebooks for student use.
Oh, okay, because it was not listed as that on their letter, so that's why I was confused.
Oh, okay.
It looked like they were talking about using it to purchase mobile hotspots that can enhance the Wi-Fi coverage for families in need of the community.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of left it open for however we want to spend the money. That was one of the ideas that they put. When I spoke with Tom Ritzenthaler, he said graduation expenses would be a perfect way to spend that $500.
I see.
Certainly it's the board's option. If you want us to use the money differently, that would be fine too. We really haven't run into a situation where mobile hotspots have been a big need. I know that's something that Robin monitors pretty closely. And $500 would buy a Chromebook and a half. We certainly do have some families that we've supplied some Chromebooks to, but contributing towards the cost of helping celebrate our seniors was something that Tom thought was a noble idea.
I have a question, because I know trying to get internet into their homes has been a problem even for Robin. So the hotspots I thought was a great idea, because the kids could use it and it could be put at various locations. So when I saw the letter too, like Sue, I was under the impression that we were going to put the hotspots up. I mean, I know graduation's important also, but so is the hotspots, because if we do have to go into this, unfortunately, into September and stuff, we're going to need those hotspots for learning.
I would recommend that we defer to Mike and Robin as they know what's going on specifically, and if we have the need for purchasing hotspots, $500 is not going to do it. We'll purchase it out of our own budget. So yeah, Robin closely monitors our needs there. So I don't, this is a lovely donation. It's not a controversial issue. We will purchase if we needed to hotspots. Robin has not seen that need right now, so.
And the big thing to remember with any donation is, although people can donate things and ask that it be one thing, the district has to take it in and use it as the district sees fit within our budgetary requirements. Okay, so Mike,
I do have one last thing. I just want to continue on with some information for the board. I expect to have a final decision made next board meeting, and I will speak to some more detail on this in executive session. If there's a piece that's appropriate for public session, it looks like at the high school for our in courses will need us to add a special education full-time teacher. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Mike.
You're breaking up. Badly. Breaking up badly, Mike.
Okay, we'll wait for Mike to come back.
I think it's those wireless earbuds.
I believe Mike is frozen.
Yes, he is. We're just waiting for him to reconnect. There he is.
Sorry about that, folks.
Go ahead again, Mike, about what you were saying.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I will have my recommendation finalized by next meeting for the special education position that I had spoken about a couple of times. Megan Febby, our director of special education, has done an some exhaustive work along with Mr. Lawler at the high school to look at sectioning, and we really are coming up short for special education classes in section high school. And it's looking like, unless something breaks over the next week, that I may need to come back to the Board of Education and recommend an additional special education teacher that we would create and then work towards hiring for September. There are some elements of this that I'll speak to in our executive session, but I just want to put it out there in our public session, and I hope to have a final decision for that for next week's board meeting. So, and with that, I have nothing else to report.
Okay, so we'll move right into the budget hearing. Mike, you want to do the presentation?
I think Rose is going to do that for us.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm going to share my screen. I just need someone to confirm that you can see my screen and hear me.
Yes, we can.
Good. Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So this is a similar presentation as we've done in the past. It is our 2020-2021 proposed budget. The first slide that you see contains our required three-part budget. It includes the admin, program, and capital portions of our budget. We are proposing a $5.2 million admin budget with a $44 million program budget and leaving our capital budget at $9 million, bringing our total proposed budget to $58.3 million. And as stated before, we are staying at the same number we did for the 1920 school year. So our projected budget, as you see here, has an allowable tax levy of $36.3 million. That is a 1.91% increase. That is our levy cap. We are anticipating just over $17 million in aid and other revenues in the upcoming year. We have a pilot that would bring in $1.2 million, as well as our projected appropriated fund balance of $3.4 million. Our total projected budget for the 2021 school year is at a 0% increase over last year at $58.3 million. This proposed budget includes all programs currently running in the 1920 school year, as well as including the athletic trainer, a few additional student clubs, and the summer program at the high school. Should we need to go to contingency, our budget would drop to $58.2 million, and we would have to follow the required guidelines for what needs to be pulled from our budget. As stated previously, major cost drivers for the 2021 budget include salaries, health insurance. We do have a slight decrease in ERS and TRS expenses, a slight increase in transportation moving forward for next year. We do have an increase in special education services, as well as a decrease in debt service moving forward. Those are the major cost drivers in creating this budget. The tax calculation for the 2021 school year, as stated before, is a $36.3 million levy. It is an increase of $679,000 over last year, and that meets the 1.91% increase. With the keeping the variables the same from last year, we have no idea about equalization rates or assessed values moving forward. So with this projected budget, if all those assessed valuations remain the same, the expected tax increase for a Marlboro home at $200,000 would be $107. Now, please keep in mind, we don't know what those numbers will be. We'll get more information come August, but this is our best guess using the variables that we know right now. Again, using last year's information. So as Mr. Brooks stated earlier, we are in the throes of our budget election. The postcards have gone out and been received. The election ballots were mailed on the 26th, so you shall receive them, if not today, tomorrow, and the next day. And as Mr. Brooks stated, those need to be returned to the school prior to 5 p.m. on June 9th, and they need to be mailed through postal service. We met our Board of Education trustee candidates earlier in the meeting. We have our budget documents posted on the website, and our budget newsletter will be going out tomorrow. The vote is, of course, mail-in ballot only, and it will include the library vote. And we will be canvassing the ballots on June 10th, and then hopefully later on in the meeting today, our election inspectors will be approved by the Board of Education. So a slightly different process than in the past, but we have really worked together as a team to make sure that we have all the components necessary for this election.
If I could just step in for a quick second, Ms. Mealy. Mike Bakatsias is also monitoring our online portal. Posted on our website is a phone number that people can call in with any budget questions regarding the budget hearing. So once Rose is finished, Mike will be able to report to us if there are any calls that have come in, and certainly be able to give a little bit of leeway if they lag in some time. But there is an option for folks to call in. And certainly, I'm always going to continue to be available, as is Rose Mealy, for any questions that anyone has. Simply email me or call my office, and we'll always answer any questions.
Mike, this is John. You said call in, but there's no numbers here. You're talking about email here. Is there a number expected that people should call right now?
On the website, there's a number that people can call, and Mike is monitoring that phone number.
I'm sorry. I thought you were showing it here. Apologize.
Gotcha.
Okay, and that actually concludes the presentation. Tonight is, of course, the budget hearing, and the next important date is June 9th, which our mail-in ballots are due. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, if you could take down the presentation so we can see everybody and be able to, okay.
Is it down?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
So do we have, anything further we have to do on the budget hearing, Mike?
No, that's it officially for the budget hearing. We're certainly available for any questions, and maybe we give a little bit of leeway if a question calls within a few minutes. But Mike, have you gotten anything yet?
We have received some calls, but really it was folks clicking on the wrong link. They were looking to join the meeting, and there were a few callers. So it is live. There are 34 people watching. So to the public, if you'd like to call in a question or join by Google Meet, those links are right on our website. You actually get a pop-up when you go to the Marlboro Schools website right now, and that will have the information under budget hearing.
So I have a question.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Joanne.
I am bouncing back between here and the conference room just because of the way we have the sound tuned here. So I'm going to mute myself and I'll go to the other computer and see if there's any questions. I'll be back momentarily.
Thank you.
Go
Joanne?
ahead. So my question is, on the contingency budget, how did we get to that amount of money? Because it doesn't look like there's nothing really cut from it, basically. And if so, what did you cut out of that to get to that amount?
So the contingency amount there is the allowable amount that our budget could be. There is a caveat to that. Our levy can't be any higher than the 1920 levy. So we feel that if we are to reduce, if we are to go to contingency, the Board of Education obviously will need to enter into a new series of discussions at our be the June 18th board meeting, and I will come to that meeting with recommendations for narrowing the budget down. All told, I think we would see no program. I can deliver a budget with no program cuts that'll require some additional use of reserves in order to get us down to a no levy increase and the maximum allowable amount that you see on the screen for our contingency budget. So I think we could still deliver a budget that does not have a program cut to it. However, under a contingency budget, there are some major inconveniences for a community. You know that our facilities get used widely by the community. And one of the caveats to a contingency budget is that certain facility users will have to be charged for the use of those spaces. And the Board of Education will have to endorse a protocol for those charges. And it's not a fun thing for a community to deal with. I don't know how recently the Marlboro schools have dealt with the contingency budget, but it's certainly an issue. So while
we have in the past.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said we have in the past had contingency budgets.
Okay. So while I think that we can certainly offer a budget that would maintain programming, I do know that going to a contingency budget is also something that is not the easiest thing for a community to swallow. So we're hopeful that we get a passed budget. We think that we have put together a solid plan. We have a very strong fiscal position. And I believe our fiscal position will be even stronger. I think that the spring, while it's been quite a challenge from an educational perspective, from a financial perspective, I am certain that we're going to be realizing some true savings, and we'll realize those savings once we close out the school year. Books get closed at the end of June, so we'll know exactly where our savings are at that point, but I think that we'll see significant savings because of the spring's virtual online experience. I think it did reduce some costs substantially. So we're hopefully optimistic for our financial position related to the shutdown, even though it was a bit of a challenge for us from an instructional perspective. So,
Karen Brooks?
I have two questions. The first one is, I can't remember what that slide said, the budget compared to the contingency budget. Wasn't it just $100,000 difference, the two budgets?
It was about $112,000 in what the allowable limit is, but we can't have our levy go up any higher than it was in 1920. So it would
Okay.
amount to about another $300,000 to $400,000 that we would have to take out of fund balance. So
Okay.
the move that remember in the current year, we're at $4.6 million in appropriated fund balance. We dropped that down to $3.4 million for the 2021 proposed budget. So we would probably need to bring that up closer to 4 million, 3.8 million in order to have a balanced budget without a tax levy increase.
So it'll be a 400, okay, that's what I was curious.
Yeah,
My
we
other
would have
question,
to appropriate more money.
my other question is, you guys know how I am and people know me. I'm a nervous Nelly when it comes to stuff, and I'm a contingency planner. So with the state talking about the cuts that they're talking about with funding, I know we're trying to be optimistic and nothing is set in stone, but like when I go to fundourfuturenewyork.org, the foundation aid for Marlboro comes up that New York and the federal governments are looking at $6 million. Is that what they're looking at for cuts for us, and how would that impact us if that does actually happen? Are we looking at cuts, or what would happen later on when we find out we're not getting that kind of aid?
Well, I think the thing you have to look, sorry, Mike, the thing you have to look at is, if you listen to the governor's discussions, he keeps talking about 20%, 20%, 20%. If him and the federal government can't work something out. So basically, you look at our aid, and if he did, because he says 20%, we're guessing he's saying 20% of all of it, but we have no idea what it's really going to be. So even if it was 20% of all of it, not even, it's still a lot of money. If it was 20% of all of our aid, that's $3 million.
Okay. Because I was wondering where if the Fund My Future New-York.org, that's the one that's out there for some of the districts, where they got that number from. And I'm just a contingency planner. I like to know worst case scenario, what would it be? So worst case scenario we're looking at would be $3 million if they cut us.
Well, that's on the rough numbers that he's talking about right now. Worst case scenario, it could, he said each quarter they could readjust. So the worst case scenario is we have no idea.
Okay.
And that's unfortunately in this case, because the governor's holding so many cards and there's no real plan from the state as to what's going on. That's why, and I know it's very frustrating for all of us as we sit through these and we talk about this, is we really don't know. All we can plan on is we know today what our aid numbers are, and the governor has said those are our aid numbers unless there's a change.
Okay.
And then we, fortunately, the first circuit breaker, will say in his plan, is at the end of June. So it would happen in July. So depending on what happens, even before we issue, we'll have the ability to deal with that over the summer, because we're all, and Mike can speak a little more, or Roseanne a little bit, we're not going to have final numbers from the towns to deal with tax bills till probably the week the tax bills are supposed to go out. Correct?
Okay. You might be concerned
I think you're probably right, and Karen's 100% spot on too. I'm not familiar with that website, but the governor's office, the governor's budget office, has not produced any numbers for any school district, nor defined what 20% will be cut from. So
I've been trying to get people to write in to help fund.
Yeah,
like our,
but he's
our
certainly
constituents.
said things about towns and municipalities and school districts will lose 20% of their aid. It's unclear. Is that 20% of our foundation aid? That would be $1 million. Is it 20% of our entire package? That'd be about $3 million. So it really is unclear. Just so that the community and the board understands, in the current budget that we have, the proposed 2021 budget, there's about $5 million of appropriated fund balance and unappropriated reserves. So we have just a little north of $5 million in reserves in the 2021 budget. That is the rainy day fund, and that's without dipping into the other restricted reserves. So when we go into the July month, and then certainly when we finalize things in August, That's where we're really going to look at how our financial picture closes at the end of this school year and what we are able to add to our fund balances. And we'll know an awful lot more about assessments, we'll know an awful lot more about equalization rates, and we'll know an awful lot about where the federal government and the state of New York are in this cat and mouse game regarding aid. And that's really what it is right now. So
I feel more comfortable hearing that. My big concern was that we were going to get to this, and if it did worst case scenario happen, me with my contingency planning, the kids have been through so much, I just don't want to see them have instruction changed again. So that was my big concern, so I'm happy to hear about that.
I mean, I'm holding on, and Sue and Rose and I have been talking, extensively that we want to, preserve as much for these children so that we don't continue with loss. And I think that this Board of Education and really, quite honestly, prior boards of education learned from that catastrophic experience with the power plants back in the early 2010s. And have really set ourselves up in a very strong financial position with the foundational work that occurred a decade ago. And we're in a much better place than we are now to be able to weather difficult storms. That doesn't mean that we've got a myriad of cash falling out of the sky. I mean, it would be lovely if that happened. No, we are planning so that we don't see major catastrophe if there's something that happens like this. But something's got to break. I mean, you can't shut down businesses in the entire nation. You can't shut down businesses in the entire state of New York and see counties and states have their revenue stream for taxes from sales taxes basically bottom out and not do something from the federal government. There's just no way that we can continue to survive. And we're starting to see the headlines happening where businesses are just saying we have to open. We can't wait for government to tell us when we need to open. We need to be able to sell product and put food on the table. And it'd just be an interesting, for those that are the academics, this is going to be an interesting study in human nature and really studying human dynamics too, which it seems that we weathered 2 months worth of a shutdown pretty well. How do we weather 3, 4? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch, but believe me, this is something that all superintendents are on the edge of their seats on. Every morning, virtually, I'm on the phone or on a Google Meet like this with Ulster superintendents, and virtually every morning, and then virtually every afternoon with Orange superintendents. And we typically have input from the county executive's office and also the departments of health in both counties. And we're monitoring and watching this very, very closely. And it's, keep saying it, but it's something we have to keep saying. This is uncharted, and we're trying our best to keep that steady ship. It really is important to keep that mast strong and that steady ship. So that's what we're trying to do, Karen.
Well, thank you for the hard work that you guys have all put into this and for the hours that you've been spending, and thank you for all the effort and for the leadership. I appreciate it, and I know as a community we do as well.
You're welcome, Karen.
Yeah, and I believe Mike Pataki says he looked like he came back with a pad, so.
Frank, really briefly, I just wanted to, I think it's worth mentioning that June 5th, 5 p.m. on June 5 p.m. on June 9th is less than 2 weeks away. I'm really not sure, if the turnaround time with the post office is on cue, how that's changed, but I think that it's important to mention that, once people get these ballots in the mail, it's very important for them to, turn them around right away with their vote.
Yeah, it's critical, and that's why we really wanted the candidates to be on tonight, because if we waited till next week, I would hope that by next Thursday, everybody that got a ballot will have already mailed it back, because we all know the post office is overwhelmed and there's a lot going on there. It's absolutely critical that when you get your ballot, if you intend to vote, open it, fill it out, put it back in, mail it back the next day, because we're bound by what the state regulations have been set. None of us want to be doing it the way we're doing it, but unfortunately, none of us have a say in what's happening. So,
and a side note too, Frank, this new process is double the cost of our old show up at Milton courtroom and cast your ballot on a machine. It's literally costing double the cost.
So okay, Mike.
So we did have one caller. It isn't a question question as much as a comment. The caller was Steve Jennison from Milton, past board member and president. He just wanted to extend his support to all of you and his support of the budget, and just wanted to urge the community to mail back those ballots as soon as possible. And that is all. No other callers at this time.
Okay, and he actually also sent an email that I'll read for the record. It's again from Steve Jennison, Milton. I just read the agenda for tonight's meeting. I see the intention of the Board of Ed to approve through personnel action the appointment of only district employees to count and certify election ballots as election inspectors. I find this to be unacceptable and places a strain on the election integrity. I want to implore the Board of Ed to find a third party to count and certify signatures that match the Board of election books. Can you imagine if the vote is extremely close? What will the public say or think? The amount of money it will cost should not even be a factor. The Board of Ed must uphold the public's trust at all costs. The community is already questioning the sending out of a ballot to every registered voter. We must uphold election standards. Mail-in votes to all is not the answer. I'll say the one part is, unfortunately, we are bound by the governor's executive order. None of us like this process. I fully support the superintendent's plan for the election inspectors. It will be closely monitored. There's no one person. We always have a district person overseeing the elections anyhow. They'll all be in one place for the entire duration. It'll be live streamed and monitored, and we'll be doing it at no cost to the district, no additional cost to the district, because they're district employees, and it'll be doing it while they work. Do you want to add anything to that, Mike?
Yes, Mike's gearing up for that live streaming. Rose is overseeing it, and our district clerk is overseeing it, Cindy Storno. So she's truly the one that's in charge of all of it. So the integrity, which I fully respect, was raised there. We're reacting to the governor's approach to this, and he put this piece of the pie in place, and we're adhering to it. So there really isn't an option for us to have a third-party vote counter for it. The use of our district employees and being able to oversee those district employees through a live-streamed web event that you'll be able to watch on YouTube, and no one exiting the space. They'd stay sequestered, essentially, for the whole time to count all those ballots, and then multiple hands and conferring of all those diplomas. You see where my head is. The ballot votes and counts, they'll confer it together. So we will ensure the integrity.
It's the same as we normally would do it after the ballots, it's just more of them. Go ahead, John.
Frank, sorry.
Go ahead, Sue, you're open.
I have some questions when we get to the personnel items, but, I too have, some thoughts, but with all that said and done, education law really does not prohibit district employee, well, I shouldn't say really does not, education law does not prohibit district employees to serve as election inspectors. I'll wait for us to get to the personnel items, but, I know that education law does allow for that.
I think Rose actually has the quote, if you have that close, from the governor's executive order on the election inspectors. Rose, do you have that available? She might have to come back to it if I'm putting her on the spot.
They're supposed to be qualified voters. The election inspectors are supposed to be qualified voters of the district.
That's under the old rules. Under the executive order, he changed it.
Yes. Under the executive order, district employees are permitted to serve as election inspectors, even if they are non-residents. And we did follow up with attorneys to make sure that we were following all the guidelines and just so everyone is aware, every vote, it'll be double count. So one person will count and then it'll be double checked. So it's not just one person with their ballots. A check and balance will be in
It's
place.
supposed to be 2 inspectors per each ballot box. Is that?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
so,
I have a question on that, Frank. Should we hold this to the discussion in the consent agenda?
yes, let's talk about the inspectors under that.
Okay.
Okay. So Mike Bakatsias, do we have any other comments on the budget hearing?
There are no other comments at this time, but I will continue to monitor for the next few minutes
Okay.
and report back.
So we'll close the budget hearing and we'll move on to the regular part of the board meeting. So I have a motion to suspend public comment on the agenda items pursuant to the governor's executive order. Can I get a motion? James Kuha, second. Karen Brooks, any discussion? Joanne Reed. Got on mute, everybody, just remember.
Yes.
Karen
Yes.
Brooks? Karen, we can't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. John Marrow?
Yes.
John Cantone?
Yes?
James Kuha?
Yes.
Susan Horton?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the contracts, agreements, and reports as presented. Personnel actions, MOA for teachers, CSE, CPSE recommendations, donations, budget transfers, equipment disposition, contract for Four Winds Hospital's tutoring, contract for Honeywell Law Firm, official Board of Ed meeting minutes for 5/7/20, textbook adoption, and financial reports for April. Can I have a motion? Karen Brooks, second. Joanne Reed. Now we can have the discussion. John?
Okay, so my question is, what's the motivation of doing it all employees as opposed to what we've done in the past where I think it's been, other community members? Is it all about the cost or what, or is there some logistical reason behind that? Because while I certainly feel like you guys got it covered with all the checks and balances, there's always that perception problem that you have that Steve Jennison was referring to. And if you do get into a close match, those things come out loud and clear. But my question is more about the motivation. What's driving it to do it that way as opposed to the past?
Legal guidance of our attorneys from their interpretation of the executive order. These this is the recommended approach to how this year's elections and inspections should be done based on legal guidance. So
the guidance is that we should use employees, and the fact
Correct.
that now employees don't have to be voters in the district like they would be in the past.
Correct.
And the other-
And I think that the governor really was also encouraging this, or the governor's office was encouraging this, because remember also, not necessarily every community, but a lot of communities, sometimes the election inspectors are retirees and older sometimes, and certainly that's a population that also is susceptible to COVID. And I think when this executive order was put into place, his goal was also not to put people in harm's way. So I think that was a driver also. And I think that the governor's office was seeing this as an easier way for a school district to manage it. So,
John
but
Marrow?
it was recommendation by our
Okay,
attorney.
I didn't pick up on that on the explanation before, but thank you.
John Marrow?
Yeah, I can actually speak to that a little bit too, Mike. My son Jake works for the Ulster County Board of Elections, and over 50% of the people are not coming back to do elections June 23rd. So they're actually looking for people to do that now because the older people do not want to do that this year. So they're having a real problem getting that community back to certify elections.
Thank you.
Joanne?
There we go. So My question is, how did you come up with the names? And how did you pick them?
Cindy and Rose worked on that, mostly Cindy. Rose, do you want to speak to it, or?
Yes, the list is our entire clerical staff. So it's our clerical unit that's coming in to count the ballots.
Okay. So if I understand right from Mike, Sue is going to oversee all of this.
No, Cindy.
Our district
Cindy is
clerk.
the district
Cindy,
clerk. Cindy is the
Cindy.
district clerk. She's responsible for the elections. Cindy is.
And there'll be 2 people counting, and double counting the ballot. And it will be on live,
That
and it will be on live stream.
That whole group is processed through with Cindy as the lead to count all the ballots and multiple check. So they have a process in place to multiple double check, triple check their counts to ensure that all the votes are counted and counted properly. And you can watch this live on our YouTube channel.
And where will this all take place?
In the courtroom.
Okay, and then they'll all have enough space between them.
We designed the space. Cindy worked with Larry to design the space so that everybody can be socially distanced.
Okay, and I guess at this point you do not have to be certified by the county electives.
Correct.
Okay. I think that was it for that, but I have other questions for the consent agenda. So when we're done with that,
We'll come back to you in a minute. James?
yes.
So I will say that I share Mr. Jennison's concerns with the election, but upon hearing the reasons we're doing it, the governor's directive, the fact that we are going to live stream this so that people can tune in and watch if they choose to, and the checks and balances, I'm a lot more comfortable with it. And I think I'm just like the rest of you. I don't really care for where we are, but we have to deal with it. So, that being said, I'm comfortable with the reasoning behind it.
And rather than cherry picking individuals, we figured let's throw the entire staff in, and then there's not cherry picking. I mean,
Joanne, you had another question on the consent agenda?
I have a question
Yes,
regarding what we're talking about.
Hold on 1 second, Joanne. Susan's got a question on this topic. Go ahead. Sorry, Susan.
That's okay. Since the election inspectors are generally, hold on, I'm sorry. Is that easier to hear me? Since the election inspectors are generally compensated at a set rate that I believe generally does not exceed the compensation to a prior election. So since these are all district employees, does that mean that we will not be setting a rate for their pay because they are already getting paid as district employees?
Yes. Correct. They're all just getting paid their salary for the day.
Okay. And the other thing too that I had a question about regarding this is, again, I know that the state education law, doesn't prohibit the district employees. It also does not prohibit school board members. I'm not suggesting that a school board member do this, but, for those that, per se are concerned, there is such a thing as a poll watcher, and as the board, we can elect 2 people to, be poll watchers, understanding that, they can exercise their right to challenge the qualification of any voter if they have an issue with that, as long as they're not interfering with the election or engage in any type of electioneering, I guess is the word. I have no idea if the board is interested in that, but I know that, that is a possibility as well.
This is John. I'll pass on that opportunity.
I have a question.
You don't want to do it?
Nope, thank you. Appreciate the offer.
I have a question with that.
Well, you're
Wouldn't it-
running, so you really you
Yeah.
wouldn't probably qualify because you're running for the board.
If we were going to move in a direction like that, I would just want to get some legal guidance before you take action on that, so that we could do that next meeting. But I mean, I understand the concept, Susan. I would just need to seek some input from legal as far as how that works under the executive order. So.
I understand, and it's not something that I'm per se pushing for. I'm saying, if the board as a whole is not, feeling comfortable, because I get it. I feel, this a certain way as well. But unfortunately, we are in unprecedented times, so we have to do what we have to do. But I do know that is a possibility. So anyway.
Okay.
So my other question is, again, how would, now we have a ballot with someone's name on it, and so your ballot is no longer a secret ballot because who's ever counting them and reading them can see how you voted, correct?
Correct.
No, they
your
won't see
name's
the
not-
names.
Yeah, your name's not on the ballot.
The
no.
counters will not see the names. The envelope and the ballot will be separated before it's passed on to the counters.
Right. You're going to get an envelope, Joanne, that you put your ballot in, and the envelope is where your name is and signed. That envelope gets open, the ballot comes out, and then the ballot goes to the ballot counter. So it's still a secret ballot.
It's still
Okay,
confidential.
so my other question is, when they get mailed in, are they all locked up securely until the day that we're counting? And where,
Yes.
and if so, where are they getting locked up?
With the district clerk.
Yeah, I would say, we shouldn't say where they're being secured, just that they're being secured.
The district clerk is securing the ballots.
As long as they are locked up in a safe, and nobody has access to them.
The district clerk is securing the ballots.
All right, so, and as far as Sue's question goes, it was a good question, but again, we can't challenge somebody's vote at that point because we can't see them or know who they are to begin with. So how could?
And everybody's got to remember is the way the executive order is written, you don't even have to be a registered voter. All you have to be is somebody that qualifies to register to vote, and they could have requested a ballot. So even if they're not a registered voter, if they meet the current qualifications, they can request a ballot. So challenging a ballot this year is near impossible.
Right.
Karen?
Sorry, I couldn't get my mic on. My question is this. Usually when we go in and we vote, they check our signature. We have to sign our signature. Are somebody going to be checking those signatures to make sure? Because the only reason I'm saying that is how do we know somebody wouldn't, take a ballot, like get somebody else's by accident and send it in? Or how do you know that it's actually that person voting?
You're muted, Mike.
Basically,
That's
what
my
you're going to
trick.
get, basically what you're going to get in the mail is the absentee ballot. So it's the same exact process times every single one that gets returned that we would follow with absentee ballots. So there's a signature space on the absentee ballot envelope, and then your ballot that what you actually check off goes inside that envelope. So it's the same exact process as if everyone was voting absentee. So there's no real difference there. It's the governor really it's mail-in ballots, but it's the absentee ballots. It's the same process.
Okay, so then they are checking then the signature.
Correct.
Yeah, it's just they're checking a lot more because normally we have a small pile of absentee ballots that get counted that night at the end of the election. Now it's everybody's an absentee ballot.
We're mailing out more than 8,000 ballots.
So you this is John, you brought up an important point. Really, it's the mail-in process, or call it absentee ballot process, that's always in place for someone who wants to request a ballot earlier than the election day, only now multiplied times thousands, or whatever the number is.
Correct. That's correct.
I would say, and Mike or Roseanne, Mike Godsey's Roseanne, somebody can chime. I don't think we normally have. We have usually under 50 or 100,
yeah,
right?
30 or 40, I think. Yeah. Right, Mike? I know Cindy's probably screaming at the screen right now because she knows the exact number, but.
But it's a very small number. It's a very small number in comparison.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
even if half the people that mail them back, it's going to be the largest election we've ever had, and you're going to have to hand count 4,000. That's if half mail them back.
Yeah.
Not including anybody that requested a ballot. And that's the other thing, is it's not just those that, you don't have to have a reason anymore. Everybody's doing it that way. Joanne?
And my other question is, it does have to be mailed in, or are we setting up a mailbox in the front of the business office?
Has to be mailed in as per the executive order.
I just want to make sure we're clear on that, because this way the residents will know, because someone had asked me if, they would be able to just bring it and drop it off. It has to be mailed in.
And that has to be received in Tuesday's mail, the 9th.
So can we make sure we put this all up on our website in the front page for people that goes and see it?
We're going to do even better. We're going to mail you a ballot with that information on it, right to your house. And we're also going to be mailing a budget newsletter that details all of it right to your mailbox. And it's on our website. So it's even better. It's coming right to your mailbox.
This is more of a statement, because I don't know if a lot of people that are watching realize this. The mail in Marlboro, the mail in Milton, when it's mailed out, and you mail it in, it doesn't stay in Marlboro. It actually goes all the way up to Albany and then comes back. And the same with Marlboro. I just wanted to point this out to people, because if you drop it off thinking that it's going to happen and you drop it off on the 9th, that morning it's going to be put right in the Marlboro school box mailbox. That's not how it happens. It actually goes all the way up to Albany and then comes back. So you got to make sure that if you want it in by the 9th, it's got to be in at least in the mail 2 days before.
Yeah, that's why earlier I said I really, really, really hope that by next Thursday's meeting, everybody has mailed theirs back that wants to be sure theirs get counted.
By the way, Cindy, I just heard from Cindy, we have a little more than 100 absentee ballots.
Great, thank you. Anything else on the consent agenda? Questions? Joanne?
Yeah, I'm coming up. This turning on and off this mic is kind of crazy. So my other question is, I see that we're hiring a account clerk, secretary, July 1st. One is, that's a civil service job, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it came off the list. And with everything going on, wouldn't we wait until like September? Instead of bringing somebody in July and saving some money and going in doing this in September?
Normally I'd say yes,
but come back then.
Normally I'd say yes and fully agree with you, but this is the guidance office secretary, and that is mission critical right now. We need 2 people in that office. We've been stumbling along with a substitute for a while until the close down, but we can't handle that office with 1 secretary. So I'm respectfully requesting that the Board of Education approve the recommendation as is.
Well, I agree to that, Mike, but right now, again, we have the other secretaries. Can't somebody go in and help until September until we get through this crisis?
They're doing all of their work though. We don't have extra.
So everybody coming in daily?
We started to trickle in last week, and now this week people are starting to come in, and next week we're going to have our staff in, but people are working, yes.
Okay, so everybody will be back through the whole summer. I mean, I thought we were shutting down the schools to make sure everything was cleaned, and that we weren't coming back.
I don't know where you came up with that. Yeah, I don't know where you came up with that, but no, we're bringing back the workforce.
Okay, so that was one. My other one was, donations, we did that one. We already answered the question about the donation. The budget transfer, what is the $35,000 for?
Roseanne, you want to handle that?
Yeah, the budget transfer is to cover Medicaid reimbursement. Our retirees are entitled to Medicaid reimbursement, and the transfer is to cover the anticipated costs for the next quarter.
So the 118.
It's 118,000, Joanne, not 35.
Right.
Well, there were 2 of them there. Hold on. let me go back to my Word doc.
It was a
Yeah, it's-
combination of two transfers from two codes.
Okay, thank you. And then the other one, I noticed, Marble Elementary School, the K through 2 kitchen, the stove, the 6-burner gas, range. Are we selling it?
That is actually from Middle Hope, and it's not functional. So it's going to be disposed of. They always, if there's a buyer for it, yes, they buy it, but then it's not functional.
Okay, and then, my other question is hold on, I'm gotta go back to my agenda here. The law firm, Honeywell, could you explain what we use that for? And what is the, retainer fee?
The Honeywell Law Firm is the firm that we use for all of our student matters. So typically principals use the Honeywell Law Firm for dealing with any student discipline issues or bullying issues or anything that we need legal guidance on for student matters. They help us with our superintendent's hearings. Of course, Robin and I serve as the hearing officer, but the Honeywell Law Firm has been now this will be going into our 6th year, our firm for student matters.
I think that was it as far as the consent agenda. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions on a consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. Joanne Reed,
Yes.
Karen Brooks,
Yes.
John Marrow,
Yes.
John Cantone,
Yes.
James Kuha,
Yes.
Susan Horton,
Yes.
and myself, yes. We'll move on to recommended actions.
Actually, Frank, could I speak to the tenure that was just awarded?
Oh, sorry, yes. Sorry, yes.
So normally we would pause at this point and have a big celebration with cake and balloons because we just awarded tenure to the 1920 class of our educators that earned tenure, and I'd like to at least spend a few minutes speaking about them. So the first person I have here on my list is Michael Monroe. Michael's phys ed teacher at our middle school. He's certified in physical education and also health education. Did his undergraduate work at Springfield College and graduate work at Ithaca College. He also is an active coach, and I'm really proud to have gotten to know Michael over the 4 years that he's been with us, and very happy to congratulate Michael on his tenure here in Marlboro, and I wish him a long and prosperous career in our community. Shane Murphy is at Marlboro Middle School also. He's a Spanish teacher, fantastic Spanish teacher, Allegheny College for his undergraduate work, Marist College for his graduate work. He's also an advisor to clubs, and really just a fantastic personality in that class, and I love learning the language when I see him teach. Laura Perry is an elementary teacher at Marlboro Elementary School. She's got certifications in elementary education, birth through 2, childhood education 1-6, literacy, birth through 6, and students with disabilities 1-6. She did her undergraduate work at Mount St. Mary's College and her graduate work at Mount St. Mary's College, and she's active in our summer reading program. And I really congratulate Laura on her tenure. Monica Taddeo was just awarded tenure. She's at Marlboro Elementary School also with an elementary birth through 2 certification, childhood 1-6, literacy birth through 6, and students with disabilities 1-6. She did her undergraduate work at New York University and her graduate work at SUNY New Paltz, and she's been active with our stage tech advisement for our drama productions. Congratulations, Monica. Nicole Kellogg is at the middle school. She's got certifications in childhood 1-6. She has a kindergarten limited extension. She's got literacy birth through 6 and students with disabilities 1-6. She's an undergrad from SUNY Cortland, and she did her master's work at Mount St. Mary's and is active in coaching as well within our school district. Nicole, I congratulate you on your tenure. Katrina Bellucci is at Marlboro Elementary School. She's got certification in early childhood education, birth through 2, students with disabilities, birth through 2, and students with disabilities, grades 1-6. She went undergraduate to Wagner College and did her graduate work also at Wagner College, and I congratulate Katrina on her tenure. Brian Shannon is at the middle school. He's a special education teacher. He's got certification in childhood 1-6 and students with disabilities 1-6. He did his undergraduate work in Binghamton, and he did his graduate work at Manhattan College, and he's an active advisor within our school district. Brian, congratulations. And Emily Ochin at Marville Elementary School is early childhood birth through 2, childhood education 1-6, students with disabilities 1-6, and literacy grade 6. Birth through 6, excuse me, did her undergraduate work at Mount St. Mary's College and her graduate work at Mount St. Mary's College. And Emily, I congratulate you on your tenure. Thank you very much, Mr. Milazzo. I appreciate it, and I really wish we could be together with our people to celebrate them, but I congratulate you all. Congratulations.
Congratulations. It's a major accomplishment, and we're very happy for all of them. Okay, so we'll move on to recommended actions. Hold on. Yes, Joanne? You're muted.
I did skip one piece of paper here. Mary Edwards Ransom, she's a science, she's one of our science teachers at the middle school. She's got her certification in the living environment and is a fantastic addition to our science department at the middle school. So congratulations to Mary Edwards Ransom. Sorry about that. Sorry, missed one.
I just wanted to thank Mrs. Walker.
Margaret Walker's retirement with a gold card on there also.
I also wanted to thank her for all the years of service that she's done for all our students. She was definitely an asset to our school, and I'm sorry to see her leave. But good luck.
The kids loved her, Ms. Walker, in her class. She's a fantastic teacher, and we will miss her. We will miss Ms. Walker, Mrs. Walker.
Okay. Recommended actions. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the increase for the 2019-20 general fund budget by $500 for money received from CS Arch to support graduation 2020 expenses in the following codes as presented. Can I have a motion? John Marrow, second. James Kuha. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Joanne
Frank.
Reed. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Susan. Go ahead, Susan.
Am I mute?
Nope, you're good.
Are you there?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Is this including the non-public transportation?
No, this is just the budget increase for
Oh, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Hearing no other comments, I'll call the roll. Joanne Reed,
Yes.
Karen Brooks. Karen Brooks,
Yes. Yes.
John Mara,
Yes.
John Cantone,
Yes.
James Kuha,
Yes.
Susan Horton,
Yes.
and myself, yes. We'll move on. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, establish July 2nd, 2020 as the annual reorganization meeting and the July business meeting, and August 28th, 2020 as the August business meeting. Can I have a motion? Karen, second. James. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple of them, Frank. With this year, because of everything going on, I think we should go back to the old way and have our business meetings in July and August, because we don't know what September is going to bring, and I think we really should look at this and rethink this. To have just one meeting in July, one meeting in August, and last year also, and then when we came back in September, everything was like piled up and on, that we had to approve everything quickly. Even if we're doing a meeting like we're doing right now on Google Meet, I think we should definitely meet the 2 times a month, because we don't know what's going on. If we're going to be allowed back in school, if we're not going to be allowed back in school, do we need certain equipment? Don't we need certain equipment? So I think we really need to rethink this and maybe table this until the next meeting.
You can always add more meetings on, but this is establishing the minimum meetings. From a business perspective, I need the 2 meetings. If there's a need that pops up for board action, we can always add more meetings. So,
Well, we had that last year, Mike, and the thing was, then we were cramming everything in September, when I really feel that even if August we have 2 meetings, I think the August part is very important, because we're getting back in school, things are needed, things aren't needed, decisions need to be made. I mean, July would be fine, but I think in August, again, I do believe we do need both of our meetings, especially with everything going on.
Well, I would like to recommend that at the July 2nd reorg meeting, we as a group discuss, because to pick dates right now for August, I don't know about you, but I can't tell you what I'm available in August right now. We don't know what the board makeup will be in August. It would be nice, it'd be nice to set the 2 guaranteed meetings tonight, and then we can add meetings if we see fit, once we have board officers and we have everything in place, and then we can compare everybody's calendars, but at least we can guarantee the public, we know 2 meetings for now, and then we could then move forward from there at the reorg meeting, as we start to get more information.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, I agree, and what I was about to jump in there before Joanne did was to say the same thing, and not necessarily set the number of meetings, but I think we absolutely are going to need at least 1 meeting in August, and maybe with additional information regarding where we are with last year's spend, which would be this year's spend, in terms of how much surplus we have, what's the latest news with all the with all the state decisions and guidance that's supposed to come down. We're going to be you guys mentioned this last meeting as well. We're going to probably not even get the tax assessment until later than normal, which is already late. So I think we should, on a regular basis, be discussing where we are, what your end of year data looks like in terms of financial, and how much did we save, where we are with the revenue projections, building some contingencies. We're gonna need some working sessions on that. Now, whether we do them ad hoc or whether we do them ahead of time.
If I could interject too. Last year we started a new process, and our intention is to do the same thing this year. We reviewed the fund balance and recommendations for the fund balances and reserves with the finance committee last year. And we wanted to continue that this year, and then the Finance Committee ultimately makes that recommendation for the Board of Education to adopt at the August meeting. So I would anticipate the Finance Committee getting together in the month of August to review all those matters and really dig into the nuts and bolts of things. It's typical what you see in most districts, and then the Finance Committee would make a recommendation up to the Board of Education for action. So it really becomes a working group that helps to guide the direction of what's expected. It's something you can really do in a committee structure as opposed to a board meeting.
Yeah,
but I'm not against having more. We can have a meeting every week. That's fine.
No,
It's just
I've been here for those.
From a business perspective, I need 2 meetings. If the board needs meetings for other purposes, I'm fine with adding more meetings. But from a process and business perspective, the 2 meetings are what's needed for me.
Well,
that's why I put this on. So,
and again, I'm not looking just to make more meetings because I want to. I really believe we're going to need discussion, whether it flows up from the Finance Committee first or not. I anticipate a lot of discussion about how much money did we save this year when we have some real numbers. As a matter of fact, I'd like to start seeing that as early as the next meeting if we have any projections, or maybe the last meeting in June, just to start to understand where we are, and then weigh that up against what's happening in the state and the revenue, and what does next year starting to look like.
Yeah.
Yep. And we also had some discussion in last meeting about potentially adjusting the levy down if in fact we feel that's the right thing to do using that fund balance, right? So it's going to be a moving target for so long. No matter what happens, even if we start to gear up and things get back to normal and businesses come back, that summer's going to go quick, right? And I just think we need to make sure we however way we do it, we can decide next meeting or the meeting after, what is the right number of meetings or the right time frame or how we stay communicated. Now that we know we can do this with Zoom meetings, or in this case Google Meets, the fact that people might be on vacation and this and that might be less of an impact, right?
Well, you gotta remember, we can only do this for as long as the executive order is in place. As soon as the executive order is expired, we can no longer meet like this.
You really do know how to ruin a party, Frank.
Sorry, I'm the wet blanket to keep, that's what I'm saying.
All right.
There's so many unknowns. If
proponent
we get more information, I think we should adjust as we go forward. Because if we don't have any direction from the governor until the end of July, all we're gonna be doing is sitting there looking at each other going, what do we do now? You know, we'll get all of our reports. We're still gonna get all of our email updates. But until we have some real direction to really report out to the public, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard.
Okay,
Karen,
I guess I'll just,
I
just a
absolutely
request.
I absolutely assure the board that I will keep you up to date on everything. And when there's the need, I think working through that committee structure is something that will benefit us greatly because it could be really a working group. So forming that finance committee, not only dealing with the broader finances of the school district, but also finalizing finances for our capital project, looking at our reserves. It'll be a working group that I'll treasure working with. So.
Okay, I don't know what the frequency is of, watching that fund balance grow or wherever it is status-wise, based on the prior year. But this year, I'd like to request that we do it maybe more frequently if what's normal is not enough, just so we're always up to speed on where we are, right?
I will have some estimates to speak to at the next board meeting, but June is a long month, so those books don't really close until the end of June, and then we'll have a decent shot, and that's when the auditors get started. So the auditors get started
understood.
in July.
It's a projection.
Yeah, so projection-wise. So believe me, this is something that is front of mind for Rose, Sue, and myself, and we will be able to make some general reports, but not really going on record with anything until books are closed. So. John, I believe me, this is a front of mind issue for us. Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough. I was thinking we didn't have to necessarily meet, be there in person. We could do it through this media, even if it's a 20-minute meeting and talk about nothing else but this. But I think I saw a lot of head shaking. I think everybody's in agreement. We should do something. We'll figure it out later.
any other comments? Okay, we'll call the roll. Joanne Reed?
She got disconnected, I think, Frank.
No, she's back in. Can you unmute, Joanne? Give me a thumbs up if it's a yes. Okay, Joanne's a yes. Karen Brooks?
Yes.
John Marrow?
Yes.
John Cantone?
Yes.
James Kuha?
Yes.
Susan Horton?
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll move on to non-public transportation. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the 2020-2021 non-public school transportation request as presented. Can I have a motion? Karen, can I have a second? James. Susan, you had a question on this matter?
Yeah, I was just looking at the roster, and I just wanted to make sure I was understanding it correctly. So for the list, I think it was like 30-something, where there is a check, I'm assuming that check meant transportation is being provided. Where there's not a check, I'm assuming it's because it exceeds the mileage limitation, but we have sent out letters, and this is where I just want clarification. We've sent out letters to those specific student families about the central pickup location.
Rose can speak to this.
Yes, correct. So it has been past practice if we have what we call an anchor child. So we have someone in the 15 miles. We do then pick up the student that is just outside the 15 miles. For this coming year, we have 2 runs that don't have an anchor child, so we will offer a central pickup for Most Precious Blood and St. Martin de Porres. Our Lady of Lourdes and Hudson Hills, they both have an anchor child, so we'll have that run out. So we typically pick up the child that's outside of the 15 because we have the run.
We don't care what our attorneys say.
Did I answer your question, sir?
Thank you.
Okay.
You did, thanks.
Anybody else have a question? Okay, I'll call the roll. Joanne Reed,
Yes.
Karen Brooks,
Yes.
John Mara,
Yes.
John Cantone,
Yes.
James Kuha,
Yes.
Susan Horton,
Yes.
and myself, yes.
Hey, Frank, it's Mike. Did I just clarify, what was your vote for the summer meetings?
We all voted yes.
You voted yes too also. And I missed one other tenure name. Can I read another name?
Sure.
Sorry. Catherine Plover, Kate Plover, teacher at Marlboro Middle School. She's got elementary certification, birth through 2, childhood education 1 through 6, literacy, birth through 6, and students with disabilities 1 through 6 that are undergraduate work at SUNY New Paltz and her graduate work at SUNY New Paltz as well. And is a wonderful advisor to our National Junior Honor Society and a fantastic member of the Marlboro Middle School. Kate, I'm sorry I missed you. You're a fantastic teacher. I'm glad you're here with us in Marlboro. So congratulations, Kate.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, so we'll move on to old business. Do we have any old business? Okay, new business?
I have a question. I think that basically kind of like covered it before, just on how much money we've been saving since the school's been closed. What does it look like maybe coming September, what we have to purchase? Those were my questions, and I think Mike answered that, saying that by the end of June, beginning of July, he'd have an answer for us.
Yeah, and the plan is hopefully he'll have some projections, realizing that they're very ballpark projections, because we really won't know until the school year closes.
And my other question is, I would like to go to the summer law conference, which I believe is virtual, on July 21st and 22nd.
Yes, and I believe Karen had an interest also. So I think, I don't remember if there was a difference in the rate if we did it early.
I was interested in the school opening conference. I was interested in the one, I think it was July 2nd or July 3rd, and it was virtual, and it was about school openings and the law.
Yeah, I think that's the same.
It's the same one?
I believe so. Hold on one second, I have it here.
It's July 21st and 22nd.
Yeah, day one is July 21st, day 2 is July 22nd. It's $130 per member. I don't believe there was it's a virtual 2 half days, 8:30 to noon. So, I don't see any reason why at the reorg meeting, anybody that's interested, it's within our budget for these trainings. I would think any board member that would like to attend those 2 half days, unless somebody has an objection, should be allowed to attend.
Okay.
So, any other new business? Under other items, does anybody have anything?
I have a quick question for Mike. Mike, you had said that the Yale webinar that you had mentioned, you were pretty enthusiastic about it. I just was curious, what was your takeaway overall?
Well, it's interesting too, because now that we're starting to reintroduce staff back into the schools, into their work environments, really paying attention to that emotional side of people it's not just the emotions, really understanding that the piece that's not just what they're saying necessarily, the affect of people. And, it's hard to predict. I think having an open mind to understanding that others think and feel differently than you do is something I took away from it. And making sure that it's not just words that you use, that you back that up with actions. So as we're starting to reintroduce staff into our offices, into our buildings, there's a lot of emotions that come with that. Some people are very comfortable walking into the work environment because they just are. Some people are very nervous about it. And making sure that we build in the proper protocol so that there's a safety net to make sure that people have the ability to be safe and comfortable is something that that struck me quite a bit to make sure that I'm mindful of. And I thought it was interesting. I just thought it was a different way to look at or think about human nature in this environment. We can't all assume that everyone thinks a particular way about this experience. Yes, we all think that this is a very disturbing and upsetting situation, but that doesn't come close to describing it for how people encounter their lives with it. So it was interesting from that perspective for me. So I appreciated being able to participate.
Great, thanks.
Anybody else, any other items? Okay, I just have one. I want to really get the sense from the group. We have a meeting, our next meeting is June 4th. And then we will meet again on the 18th. And the 18th will be our last meeting for this school year unless something happens. The 18th, I really would like us as a group to meet in the fashion we did the last time, still socially distanced in the courtroom, spread out. But I think as we finish out the year and, it'll be Susan's last meeting and who knows, by then we'll have election results and we'll know where we're going. But I just think it's important that at least for the 18th we meet in person. I just want to make sure everybody's okay with that.
This is John. I'm okay with it.
Okay, good. I saw a lot of nodding heads, so.
I'm good.
So.
Yes, this is Karen, I think it's great.
Okay, so we'll plan on June 4th doing the same thing that we're currently doing. And then on June 18th will be a meeting at Milton. We're still, as long as the executive order is still in place, it'll be a closed meeting that'll be broadcast, but the board will all physically be in one location.
Great. I have a question. The night of the election, which is June 10th, aren't we supposed to be there to rather accept the budget?
There's no, I asked the same question, and there's no requirement for that. So at the June 18th meeting, we'll accept the results at that meeting.
As soon as we have results, I'll publish them so that the board's aware, but we may not have the results on the 10th. That may take a day or two to count all those ballots. So it depends upon how quickly you get through it.
Okay, and then you'll be live as you're counting those ballots, even if it takes you 3 days.
Right, when they're counting ballots, it'll be live streamed on our YouTube page.
All right, and when they come in, they'll be checked off and counted, so this way they'll be able to match how many got mailed in and how many are counted, correct?
I am not overseeing the process, so I can't speak to the specifics, but the district clerk is following the letter of the law for our election process, as she does every year, by the way.
She does?
Yeah, so she's following the process to the letter of the law, Joanne.
Right, it's just that this year is different, Mike, and people do want to know, and Steve Jennison did bring up some questions. So I think as they come in, they should be counted, and when we're done, they should be counted so we know none got lost. That's all I'm mentioning.
Joanne, I don't know if what you described is what the letter of the law is, so whatever the letter of the law is exactly what Cindy's going to do with the group there. So.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So we have a proposed executive session. Resolve the Board of Education enter into an executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person in collective bargaining negotiations. Can I have a motion? Karen, second. John Cantone. Any discussion? There'll be no action after the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carried 7-0. We'll be entering an executive session. Don't go anywhere, people on the meeting. But the public, thank you for attending, and we will, please remember, as soon as you get your ballots, fill them out, mail them back in immediately so that we're sure they're received in time to be counted. And our next meeting will be in the same format next Thursday on the 4th. Thank you, everybody. Michael will be disconnecting us now, so everybody can stand by.